Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeet. I am actually a lifelong Kaiser baby. That decision was made for me when I was born. So without further ado, we're going to bring up the stars of the show, Mayor John Carley and City Manager Aaron Bush.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome everyone. It really is a privilege to be with you again this year. You know, every year it's like, okay, what is the state of the city? And I really do want to say thank you to the Chamber and the Opera House. This is a great place and a great way to start your day and to learn more about what's going on in the city of Vacaville. There's a lot of things that are going on, and sometimes, just like you saw last year, it was really about behind the scenes. There's so many things that do occur that what we have to do is make sure that this works. We'll start with that. How about that?
No, go back.
Go back.
Go back.
Go back.
There you go.
There we go. So last year was behind the scenes. A lot of details, a lot of moving parts. Everything about it was very important last year. And the theme this year, as you'll hear from our city manager, Aaron Bush, and also staff that helped to prepare this and all of the help that goes into it, from department heads to everyone that makes a city what we call a vibrant city. This year, however, it's the objectives. We're going to call this by the numbers. Sometimes there's a lot of data, there's a lot of details, but through that, it's going to tell a story of Vacaville. And I'll also save some time at the end, because I know there's questions, right? It's going to be what is going on with this or what is going on with that. And we're here and welcoming you to ask the real questions, the hard questions, the fun questions. Probably I'll just tee up the question that I get so often, at least once a week, is when are we going to get a Trader Joe's, right? So I figured I'd just lead with that. And the answer is I don't have anything to say yet today. How about that? But if you're Trader Joe's or you know someone, call me so that we can hopefully make some of you happy, because it is something that we hear often from constituents and in business. And so that's not the only thing going on, but I just figured it's a fun way to start. There's always these conversations. You can imagine my phone blows up. So does members of our council. Thank you, council, for being here as well. And so in this theme of by the numbers, you're going to hear a lot about some budget issues. Try not to bore you with too many slides and details, but it is important so that you are all advocates for us in the city. You are the stakeholders, and we serve you, and we are here to make sure that you know that we have not forgotten that. And it is important as we leave here today that we are on the same page. So to start off, now I'm just going to make sure that everything is in this order. What we've been doing, I want you to understand, just like a business, we have a strategic plan, right? And sometimes members of the public will come to the council meetings and wonder why something is important or where does this fit in our priorities. And there is a guiding document, and this document is put together, and it was put together by members of the city council over several years. It is at its last year. And so if this was Rotary, I think that would cost somebody, but it's not. So you get a pass. Mine's on silent. But there are 5 goals in the strategic plan outline, and there's 8 initiatives, and in that there's 39 implementation strategies. And I say that because every time something comes to the council for decisions, staff makes sure that it aligns with the council's directives. And it does so in ways so that we can track what our priorities are. Is it meeting the objective? And are we making progress? And so this document is in its final year. And so like the next year, like any business, we will update it. It has deep roots at a time when we were coming through a pandemic and all the things that were affecting a city and business. Times have changed, and it will be time to move on. Well, I won't steal the thunder. This will be our city manager's last and final state of the city. And so I don't know if he'll do a mic drop or he'll do something fun, tell a joke, dance. Yes. But we'll keep you guessing for that. But I certainly want to say thank you, Aaron, for your service. We'll get into that later on, but thank you. And my slide also says that there is a link. My understanding is there may be more information. So if you're interested, this is also on our website. It may start to look dated, but one of the things the council it's imperative for us to do is to track the progress. And I commend our staff for when they do put this in front of our city and our city council, that they ensure that we know where it is and then we can track it. And it comes to us usually quarterly to see what is the update in the strategic plan. And so we do try to operate like a responsive business, just like all of you. And I certainly want to just say thank you for your support. There's another exciting opportunity that, as you can see, that the City of Vacaville has been able to participate in. When I became mayor, the Harvard Bloomberg program, which you may or may not have any idea, there is a lot of philanthropy that's out there. And one of the opportunities that our city staff, whether from our city manager and our assistant city manager, were able to participate in some leadership programs through Bloomberg. And if you understand what Bloomberg is he was the former mayor of the city of New York. And the philosophy really is to be data-driven, that everything you do, there's a priority behind it, and there's a reason why you will come on a policy level where you're going to apply funding and have solutions. Why is this important to Vacaville? Because we've been afforded the ability to partner with Bloomberg Philanthropies, which is the funding source behind it. And so whether it is traveling to New York, or to Baltimore, or their teams traveling here and coaching our teams on what it means to be a data-driven city, this is what has been happening in the last 9 months. So last summer, we applied for a program because of this partnership, fully funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies. We did not have to pay anything out of our general fund budget. In this City Data Alliance project, with the support of the coaches from Bloomberg Center for Government Excellence, city staff has spent the last 9 months developing a 3-year data strategy, which is really a vision and actionable plan to advance the use of data to improve outcomes for our residents. So the strategy is built around 5 core pillars: governance, quality, use, capacity, and transparency. And this is really near and dear to my heart, because how many times have we said, whether you're making a business decision, our council, I hear this many, many times when there's something that is in front of us, and that is we're data driven. Are we data driven? Are we data informed? And the goal of this program is to be a City Data Alliance city. And these programs in the next 3 years is just to ensure that when we're making decisions, there's impact. Financially, if there's an ask to the city council, it's responsive to the community, and there's metrics and measurables on how to achieve that. It gets even better because over the last couple weeks, my understanding is thank you, Georgianne, for the application, well, what do you do with that? And here's an example of one of the things that we're going to be able to demonstrate. There will be a special meeting for the city council. It is open to the public. It's off-site. But one of the areas that this program is to have an impact. How do you understand whether or not your staff knows how to be data-driven? And the impact program, especially at a perfect time like this, is to look at Measure M, to look at some of the pilot programs that were put in place over the last several years, and to determine whether their focus and their deliverables are effective. And so that will also be a report out to the city council at this upcoming meeting. And so this has been an opportunity for staff to lean in on what it means to truly use data and to share it appropriately so that the council can make good decisions listening to the public. So it gets even better is in the last few weeks, we've been accepted into the evaluation track for Bloomberg Philanthropies, which will focus on testing new ideas that will drive investment in the most effective programs and maximize results for our community members through better informed policy decisions. And that's really the response from our council to you is that we're making informed policy decisions. And what better way to do that than to have a council that understands what that looks like when you're asking for data to inform the decisions. But you now have staff that are raised up in a culture that knows how to deliver that very message so the policy decisions will impact your community and our community in a positive way. So that's very exciting that it's coming. And the coaches have been very responsive. They come on site and they help our staff. And so that is an opportunity that was never afforded to us except for a program like this at no expense. So we're pretty excited about that. But as we dive into I'm going to say the bulk of this program today, I think it's important to actually then understand what these numbers mean. And then what I'll also do afterwards is I will wrap it up before questions and focus on what I believe is the other piece of this. And it really comes down to this: why Vacaville? And you're all here because you appreciate Vacaville and support Vacaville. You live in Vacaville or do business in Vacaville. And we want to continue that support and make sure that we're delivering to you information so that you can be advocates on our behalf and vice versa. So thank you. And I want to turn the next series of slides over to our city manager, Aaron Bush. And there's a lot of numbers, but thank you.
Thank you, Seth. That's it. Okay, good. We good? Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here again. First and foremost, I need to say thank you, Debbie, for the Chamber's support and allowing us to do this every year. And thank you to all the business partners out there that I've had the pleasure of working with over the years. So thank you for being here and allowing me to share what we're doing at City Hall, because we are very proud of what we're doing, because we just had an internal event recently that talked about why we do what we do. And it's because we really care about this community and all the great people that live, work, and play here. And so thank you for the opportunity to serve. And with that, I will go ahead and jump into some of the key numbers that I wanted to share with you today. So I need to start with, obviously, the city numbers. Okay, so everyone's familiar with these things. So we have a population of over 102,000 people. But when you factor in the number of people that come to work here, that come to visit here, we have about 300,000 customers every day, okay? So that's a lot. We have 27 square miles, 710 miles of roads, 35 parks, 3 community centers, just under 2,000 square miles of open space. And then the fun part with the operations, we operate a $292 million budget. And we have over 960 employees, and there are 12 different city departments, okay? There's a lot. We are a full-service city, which means we provide just about everything, but we do have partners with PG&E for our gas and electric needs. But for the most part, everything else that you experience here is provided by the City of Vacaville. So, I wanted to do this, and it's a little bit different from past, because as the mayor mentioned, this is the team that makes what I'm going to share with you in just a moment, make it happen. You're kidding me, God. I haven't got
No green light yet.
We good? All right. I just had that effect, I guess. Sorry, guys, I was going to talk you up, and then that happened, but okay. In all seriousness, we'll regroup and focus again. I'm about to share with you all the wonderful things that the City of Vacaville accomplished last year, okay? That doesn't happen without this leadership team, who I've had the privilege of working with for a number of different years now. There are 14 individuals here. I get to work with 13 of them. When you combine all the years of experience and everything together, there's over 325 years of experience. Now, admittedly, I skew the numbers a little bit because of my tenure, but this is the most talented group that I have ever had the privilege of working in my 37 years. I'm going to do it, dadgummit. What was the over-under that I get emotional? But to you all, who are, a lot of these folks are here at this table, thank you so much for everything that you do. We wouldn't have a State of the City without you all. And to that effect, I need to acknowledge our media team, who is the best despite that little blip, and my executive assistant, who carries all the superpowers that you need to do all this and pull this off. So thank you to all. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we got that part out of the way. All right. But they get the privilege of leading an amazing team as well. That's comprised of, as I said, 960 employees. We have over 602 permanent employees, which makes us one of the largest employers in Vacaville, as well as 290 part-time people. And this is just a sample of some of the things that we are doing out there for our community. We have over 290 different job descriptions. So when I say full service city, there are a lot of different roles out there. And that's one of the things that I love best about my job is that it's really getting to oversee 10 different companies, completely different companies. It's not, like chocolate and caramel, it's different, okay? But that's one of the more challenging things, but it's also one of the more exciting things. And our people are very dedicated to making sure that we meet your needs and are great service providers. So now I wanted to go ahead and go into some of the highlights from last year. The little graphic that you see up there in the upper right-hand corner, those are our 5 goals that the mayor identified that are included in our strategic plan. And so I'm going to highlight, the achievements under each of those different goals. Okay, so for this one, it just so happens to be in blue because that's what the folks in blue in public safety wear. So these are the accomplishments from public safety, and I certainly won't read them all. But as you can see, there's a lot here. They responded to almost 14,000 calls in our fire department. That's an increase of 7%. Fielded over 1,500 code enforcement cases. This is a fun one. They collected 140 fireworks from residents last year for 4th of July. I think they lit them off someplace else at a party, but we're still following up on that one, right? And then this particular picture is our new interim fire station out there at Lagoon Valley, which I'll talk about more later. But this was an amazing undertaking to happen as a partnership. And that's really how this stuff works, is that this was built by the developer out there at Lagoon Valley, but it is now being staffed by, our fire department. So great work. In our police department, we responded to over 59,000 calls for service. This is why this is one of the safest communities in California. Another real fun one is that they were awarded someone else's money, which is the best kind of money, from the state. And there was a lot of money that was put out there for the retail theft and all that sort of thing, if you remember. Not every city got to the table fast enough in that, but we did. And so as a result, we're building a real-time information center that's definitely going to take us to another level of safety. The next goal was strengthen the local economy. And this is the one where, we're talking about how do we build and grow our economy from, just existing businesses adding 1 employee, because if 100 businesses do that, that's 100 employees. It doesn't just have to be brand new businesses, but we'll take those too, okay? And so we saw a lot of great activity coming from our building and planning departments. As you can see here, our planning department approved applications that result in almost 2,000 new residential units, almost 300,000 square feet of non-residential. And as you can see here in our building department, they completed almost 14,000 inspections. That's by 3 people, by the way, okay? And collected over $28 million in impact fees. More of the local economy kind of closer to home down here. We received, the council allowed us to put a destination downtown facade grant program in place with ARPA funds. So we received 16 applications, and that money's going back into the downtown area for facade grant improvements to go ahead and help beautify our efforts in the downtown. This one is a new one here. We authorized, over 1.2 million in ARPA grant funding back into small businesses and nonprofits as well from ARPA money. So again, putting the money back into the community to build that up and keep their economy growing. Okay, so here's another one, protect quality of life. And there's really 2 pieces to this. One is more of the art element piece of it, and the other one is public safety. So this is the fun part. This is where staff has been working on constructing new park projects and remodeling existing park projects that we've never done before. We completed a $1.5 million expansion and renovation project at Pheasant Country and Meadow Parks. We've added artwork throughout the town, and that's something that we hope to continue and grow because that's what we call placemaking and destination making. So that brings people out and lets them stay longer and walk around and get healthier and shop and do all those fun things. And then our Parks and Rec Department served over almost 24,000 people in their programs and services. Next one goes more to public safety items. So this is kind of the quiet piece that you don't always get to see, but is just as critical to providing public services to our community. We've assisted 157 at-risk youth and 308 low-income households, allocated almost $1 million and assisted 1,000 families with assistance, with food distribution. We were very creative and went after a FEMA grant for almost $1 million to help with unreinforced masonry buildings downtown. We have, I believe, 17 or so. I hope I got that number right, but who's going to call me on it? That are all going to improving the downtown area, okay? And that's another partnership effort where, you know, business owners are looking for help about how do I go ahead and revitalize and reuse my building. So we initiated this effort and now have a plan to work with business owners on that. And then we also did some other things related to public safety, one being the battery storage issues and other issues about chemicals and those kinds of things. So some very important efforts to protect public safety. Maintain efficient services. So this is another important one. This is how we run our business, right? This is the nuts and bolts behind the scenes. And so 84 new recruitments for the city. We are just continuously experiencing everything that your businesses are experiencing, right? A lot of turnover. Thankfully, we've gotten through the silver tsunami, but I'm going to take part of that soon. But we've also, again, got other people's money so that we can go ahead and put that into a new expansion project for our detention basins. We've added other people's money for the installation of solar at all of our public buildings. So again, the theme is that we're trying to be as creative as we can, use many different resources as possible to put that back into our services and our facilities so that we can provide cost-effective services for our community, okay? And then the last one is community engagement, and this is a fun one. This is a variety of different things. It's all about reconnecting with our community. And this came out of the pandemic. This is when everybody was closed down and shut off from each other in the world and everything. And we created a program called COV Connect, City of Vacaville COV Connect, because we wanted to get back out there with our residents and let them know that we are here to serve, we are here to help them get back to things as normal. And so this program is just one of examples where we're getting out there into the community, making a difference, cleaning up neighborhoods and all that sort of thing. Speaking of which, if you're interested and you have free time, our next Make a Difference Day is this next March 29th. We'll be out in the Leisure Town neighborhood helping seniors who can't help themselves. So if you're interested, go ahead and scan this, and I believe that this is on the information flyer as well. So that is a real quick run through of all of the, the achievements for past year under the different categories. But I did have 3 citywide awards that we were recognized for last year that I wanted to highlight for you. The first one is kind of exciting. The first one is the Helen Putnam Award. So like all other 458 cities in the state of California, we are a member of League of California Cities. And last year we were recognized by the League to receive one of 10 awards from the Helen Putnam Award Foundation. 184 cities applied for it. We were one of the 10 that received it. And so that is remarkable for the work that we did. And that particular award was for our efforts with youth. And it was specifically related to the youth engagement community services and what we call our Summer at City Hall program. We actually partner with our friends over here with Ed at the school district, and we have students come in, receive a stipend, receive college credit, and a notebook and all that sort of thing, and then they actually go into City Hall offices of every one of them and learn how to do our jobs, because we recognize that those are the future leaders that we need to be familiar with public service work. So we're very excited about that one, and appreciate your partnership, Ed. The next one that's over there on the right is the award from the California Association of Local Economic Development. That is another statewide award, and that recognizes excellence in economic development. This is one that we partnered with our friends over there at the Workforce Development Board to go ahead and help promote workforce development. And that ties directly into our biotech and our advanced manufacturing strategies. And so recognizing that we are building that workforce talent pool so that we can create living wage jobs here so people can stay here, live, work, and play, and not have to go someplace else and leave the community. The final one, this is a fun one. For all you people who like to dress up and do fun things. Last year, our VacaCon event, if anybody's familiar with the big one down in San Diego, the Comic-Con event, this is our local version of it. But this year we were recognized for a VacaCon event from the California Park and Recreation Society's Creating Community Award of Excellence program. It couldn't get any longer, but we tried to embrace it. But anyway, it's to recognize our VacaCon event for engaging the community and getting them out there. And it was so successful. This was the first year that we went from 1 day to 2 days, and we went from attendees from 1,000 to over 10,000. Okay? And so for those of you who do like to, secretly dress up, or you got a comic book collection that you need to add to, our next event is April 12th and 13th. Okay. We had Tom Cruise in last year's presentation. We needed to add him in this one, so we had to bring that in. A State of the City would not be a State of the City without those important numbers, right? So I'm going to try to get through these as quick as possible and not bore you to death, and I know you probably can't see those. It says we're fine. Thank goodness my finance director's not here, because he'd be throwing something at me right now. Actually, what this particular chart shows is that this was our estimate at the end of the fiscal year and the actuals. And our team is outstanding, and they're pretty spot on. And as you can see, we were within $1 million of being in our forecast and the actual. And there was, some very few surprises in there. But you'll see that we're running negative. And I will tell you that I hope you all know that this isn't just a situation with Vacaville. It's not unique to Vacaville. It's everywhere, right? Everywhere across the country and probably internationally. But the thing that is important to point out here, this is the first year of negative growth in our Measure M sales tax. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. But before I get into the details, I want to make sure that everyone understands where our revenues come from, okay? The biggest part of our revenues come from two sources, and that's sales tax, which when you add in the regular sales tax down here, 20%, and then our Measure M sales tax, that's 36%, okay? And then the other big one is property tax, 28%. So that equals about 2/3 of our revenue, okay? So I'm going to talk about those in just a second here. Okay, so what has changed last year and even the year before? So historically, from 2019, 2020, for the next 4 years or so, our revenues were growing at just under 6%. Okay, that was great. But the past 2 years, they've gone down to just above 1%. And the reason for that is the sales tax growth. Okay. Expenses, those have increased. Surprise. Everybody knows that everything has gotten more expensive, right? And so the revenues slowed down because back in those days is when the economy was different, inflation was different, interest rates were different, and there was stimulus money that was coming from the federal government that was going back into the community. That doesn't exist anymore. And so consumer confidence has been reduced, but expenses are still going up. So that's why we have that, difference there and why we're going into deficit. Here's a closer look at the sales tax and property tax figures. Again, in those earlier years, our sales growth was upward around between 8 and 9%. Right now, we're down. We're down to flattening out at less than 3%. And this past year, it was only 1% growth there. So again, that's showing you here that it's leveled out. And in the past 2 years, we've lost about $2 million a year. So that's a $4 million swing right there. Now, fortunately, property tax, despite the fact that, home sales were on slowing down a little bit last year, they are picking up this year so far, which is good news. But we did have an upswing, and that's because non-residential growth like this had occurred. And that occurred a little while ago, about a year and a half or so. And so now we're just now seeing the benefits of those property tax values coming into the city. So this is a fun chart. This is our forecast. And I should have said earlier, and I apologize. Last year was the first year that we ever went into deficit spending. We told the council that in order to do everything that we needed to do, that you asked us to do, we had been real close for the years prior, but we were able to balance the books without using any reserves. Last year, we told them that we're going to have to go into reserves if you want us to accomplish these things, and they gave us the go-ahead with the caveat that we watch it and make sure that we're not falling into a trap of doing it again and again and again. And so, there's that rotary problem. Anyway, so we've been watching this, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But what this does show is that if everything were to continue as is assumed today, our deficit continues, it gets smaller. But we ended this year with what we thought was originally a $10 million deficit. It's now an $11 million deficit. And as you go on the next few years, it gets smaller, but it still continues. Okay, and so we'll talk about that in a second. This is just a summary of what that shows right there. So this is a picture of our reserves. These are the have-tos. And when you look at it at the bottom down there, those are the percentage rates of how our reserve goes, continues to go down. That's not good. And so we're working on that. But I will tell you that we're in talking to my other colleagues in other cities around here, we're still in a much more enviable position than others. And we have ways to help ourselves get out of this, which I'm going to share with you now. Real quick though, about the forecast, we do have a structural deficit. That means, going forward, we spend more than we make. And this is no different than your personal budgets or your business budgets. It's lots of moving pieces, but it assumes, again, that if everything continues, then that will be the trend. But I'm guessing that not everything is going to continue the same like that. So we are on the right track, and I'm going to walk you through some of those things in just a second. But as I mentioned, the property tax, it takes 12 to 18 months to get back into our books, okay? And so, for example, this sale that occurred last year when Genentech sold to Lonza for $1.2 billion with a B, that's a great number, but we don't see that immediately. We probably won't see it this year even. And then I mentioned that Fire Station 76, that's necessary, that interim station out there, but we're having to staff it at our cost until a certain number of permits is issued and occupancies are out there, then we can start collecting monies to offset those costs. But we're on the right track, I believe, so there's optimism. But as the mayor mentioned, we're going to the council at the end of this month to talk to them about their goals and the priorities. And so one of the things that we need to do is talk about our budget situation. And we're going to adopt kind of that same policy or theme that we did back with the pandemic about being strategic and cautious. So we're going to look at all different kinds of situations, and I'm going to highlight those real quick. So a couple of options that we're going to consider and have a conversation with our council real quickly, because I'll talk about these in more detail in just a second, is tighten our belt. We know that we have to carry some of that responsibility. There's not a lot of waste, but we're going to look at ways that we can across the board, whether you're spending general fund money or not, to find cuts that hopefully do not cut services or impact services, because we definitely don't want to do that. We want to get creative with things that we want to do in terms of surplus property, and also just looking at the ways that we manage money. And then finally, attract more private investment and get our customers out here to invest their hard-earned dollars into our community for the product that we provide. So with that, I'll go through this real quick. This is tightening our belt. So we have currently 31 capital improvement projects that we're working on. That total about $142 million. Now, that's not just general fund money. That also includes grant money, and other ARPA money and those type of things. But these are the type of projects that we're currently working on: infrastructure projects, park projects, facility projects. So that's kind of our focus, but not add any new projects, because there's plenty to do to keep our team busy to move forward with. On the Get Creative side, we do have a variety of different properties, that the city owns that we're ready to sell. Okay, and there's a couple out there that we're currently working with 2 potential retailers that, if successful, will do a couple of things for the city. One, we'll get the one-time sales price money to be one-time money. You get the ongoing property tax. And then if these businesses, which I can't tell you what they are, but you'll like them if we're successful, we'll refresh our retail sector and they get the ongoing sales tax, okay? So there's just a couple of examples out there that we're doing. And then also related to being creative is our innovative partnerships. I've talked to you before about Mango Materials. This is a partnership that we have with a very creative company out at our treatment plant that is taking our methane gas that we don't want. They use that gas and turn that into a sustainable biodegradable plastic, okay? They are about ready to launch next month, and then this becomes their corporate headquarters. The word is out about them that this is a environmental, sustainable corporate leader for this industry. And by being located here, we already have companies that are interested in that whole sustainability thing of relocating here. Because again, there's over hundreds of uses for their product, which is, again, a biodegradable plastic that can be turned into hundreds of different things. And so those companies that say that they want to be sustainable, that doesn't mean being in Texas and getting your product from California. They want to be here where they can get that product. So this will be a game changer. Another effort of being creative, again, we're using other people's money to create new revitalization plans for 2 neighborhoods in our community that are currently, I would say, underperforming. Older shopping centers, older mixed-use neighborhoods, and so forth. And so the goal is that we can use planning efforts to work with the business owners, the property owners, and find out what's the best use, how do we maximize the efficiencies out there, how do we improve the zoning, how do we get them to invest privately and publicly to improve things out here so that they can see a redevelopment and revitalization of these neighborhoods. Lastly, attract more private investment. And so I'm going to go real quickly through some of these examples here. 700 Park, just right down the street. You all saw it, it's finally developing. We hope that building permits will be issued next week. And as you can see, it's a mixed-use development with condominiums and retail space, and we're very excited to have this getting underway. Lagoon Valley, thank you for sponsoring the event. This is an amazing project, over 1,200 units, market rate. It has everything. If you want it, it has it, as well as commercial space. And there'll be a surprise here in just a second. But the other amazing, truly interesting thing about this is it's open space, 475 acres, as well as 196-acre golf course. As an aside, real quick, I was down for my last city managers conference down in Rancho Mirage, down in the Palm Springs area earlier this year. And as an aside, my wife and I went to the new Disney community. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a new gated community that is being developed by Disney. So it's something special. I'm not just saying this, Kurt. Lagoon Valley is a much more aesthetically appealing, environmentally sensitive, beautiful amenity community, so it has something for everybody. The other thing about Lagoon Valley is it's going to be not just a crown jewel for our community, but it's also going to be very important for helping city revenues in our coffers. During construction, you'll see that there's almost $800 million in total spending, 16 million in tax revenue, and 517 jobs. Ongoing, which means after it's developed and people are occupying it, there will be just under $7 million in total spending and $7 million in tax revenue and 41 jobs. So this is going to be not just something that you want to go see and play and live at, but it's also a very powerful economic engine. But there's more. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. And I hope. Yeah, sometimes it's important to dive into the understanding of why things are important or what is impacting a city and what is coming, because it affects all of you. It affects your business. One of the things that is exciting, and several of us got to see the kickoff, and thanks to our sponsors out in Lagoon Valley and Triad and Kurt, there is something that we often see as we are trying to promote economic development. We're looking at housing, we're looking at the need for new schools, and we're looking for opportunity. And this is one that I've been excited about for a long time. And the forefront of this didn't just start here. It came with a vision of our city leaders even in the past. And I look back to Mayor Augustine, and he was able to join us last year when we did some groundbreaking out there. And it was very exciting because over the years, there's been people who, first of all, thought, is this really a good idea? There's so many things it could have been. And this is real. Anyone who drives by there knows that it is real. It's also sustainable. What we learned on Friday was that it is one of only one in the entire state of California and one of less than 100 in the entire nation to be that sustainable community that people actually want to come and be part of, not just because it's good for the environment, but the preserve area out there is incredible if you have not seen it. It is truly a spectacular place. And you could feel the excitement, especially even when there were other industry leaders who came in and joined us. And this is an exciting proposition right here. And that is the Lagoon Valley, now there is an application for this to be a destination stay and play hotel. Obviously, there was always going to be a plan for a hotel, but imagine when you're in a location that is sustainable, environmentally focused communities such as Lagoon Valley. This is a concept, but the idea is imagine having, I believe it's 63 casitas and how many suites?
That's it.
27 suites. And the idea is imagine people who want to come as a destination. Farm to table, everything about it causes people to want to fly. And it would be the only one between Napa and Lake Tahoe in its existence. And so they've done the assessments of why this is a perfect place for Vacaville. And I want to think, especially when we look at the economic development side of this, is I have a lot of friends who say, is there going to be a golf course? I've seen firsthand that there's going to be a golf course, and it's going to be a PGA championship course. It'll also, hopefully, by design, be an Audubon certified. And when you think of what that is, it becomes a special location. We're not just driving out of town to have the place where it's the destination. And why is this important to Vacaville? Not only can it and will it generate over the course of 10 years, it has been assessed at over $15 million in uncaptured TOT and excise taxes. If there's any change to that in the future, it's projected to be over $20 million. That also causes people to want to stay here and shop here and come downtown and do everything that we're looking. We're trying to activate a community. It ties into the whole operation of we're focusing on the biomanufacturing sector. But you have to have this so that people have the amenities. These are the kinds of amenities that changes everything. You're not having to go elsewhere to have that experience. And you could see the excitement as of last Friday, but this has officially been filed with the City of Vacaville. And so we certainly are looking forward to the opportunity to have that destination that is truly a 4-star boutique quality, but sustainable and in concept to fit in with the location that will be there. And that is something that is unique for Vacaville. And so we're excited for the partners and all that you're doing, Kurt, and the whole team at Triad. And one other thing is while there is one development that you can go out there and see, my understanding is the second set of model homes will be available for viewing and walkthrough starting this weekend, correct? That's right. This is good for Vacaville. When we look at the need to present, and we hear from the city manager who's taking care of the details behind the scenes and the numbers, the challenge is are we preparing for the future? And what we do now may take 12 to 18 months before we begin to recoup that. And so it's the responsibility of the direction from the council, but also under the city manager to make sure that we bridge that gap financially, knowing that there's reason for optimism. And this is really exciting, and I wanted to share that. We'll continue on, and then I'll wrap it up with some final slides. But this is the kind of thought process that goes into sparking that economic development in all areas. So very excited about this, and we are working with you. And just it's important to understand there are some times where there is development that isn't occurring, that we're trying to make sure that it does because it meets all our housing needs, but it also prepares for the workforce that's coming. So, thank you.
Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. So there's actually a couple of different locations that it potentially could be located, one or more out there. So this is going to be something very special for that area out there. So additional development is still continuing. Last year we hit an all-time high for residential development, 475 single-family permits. That trend is already repeating itself at the beginning of this year, so that's great news. Speaking of Lagoon Valley, I believe that they're asking for another 60 to 70 permits here in the next couple of months. So it's really exciting where things are headed. So, biotech. Of course, I had to talk about biotech. But before I share with you some of the important things to share, I know that this has been something that we've been talking about for a while. And I know that my counsel's been like, okay, Aaron, you've been talking about it for a while now. Show me something. Okay. Well, so what we did is, because I'm not in the biotech building business, we did get 3 experts in the field to come and make actually 6 experts, but what you're about to see is a clip from that update presentation to the city council, where they went ahead and told us in the council what they see is happening in the industry. So with that,
it's about 10 years and about $1 billion to get a drug from inception all the way through FDA approval. And it's only upon FDA approval that you can make any money on all the research and all the money and all the time you just put into what you're doing. And by the way, once you get that FDA approval, that's when the manufacturing process starts. That's when you can start actually producing that drug.
The measure of R&D spending at the top 500 biotech companies stayed up. It didn't go down, even during and post-COVID. Similar, pharma R&D spending also still up. What is the point of all this? In essence, although the capital markets stopped, the investment that those companies have made hasn't slowed down. The bull run we experienced inside the industry from 2015 to 2021 was historic. Never had a 7-year bull run before. Interesting that it stopped as abruptly as it did, given all the external influences. But all that science that was invested in during that stretch did not go away. They've held it up.
The way that investors look at technology in general is like any other asset class. They're going to invest their money where they see the most return for the risk. Well, historically, in the life science world, that has been the most outsized return for the best risk portfolio, let's just say. It was estimated that it was something, and this is about 2 years old now, but the return was about $4.21 on every dollar invested into the sector. Well, that number is actually getting better now.
Every 10 to 20 years, there's an entirely new category of drugs. And this is that time you're about to experience.
As they were saying, this is an emerging field. In cell therapy, we're finally using the C word, a cure for cancer.
The first few cell and gene therapies have been approved. There are only a few on the market today. And by recent measure, there are about 734 of these in late stage trials. About half of these have no current option of supply mapped out. In other words, they have not yet determined where they're going to be made. That is your window for this land.
Vacaville is a particularly really well-located place in terms of talent, in terms of cost, in terms of proximity to this R&D center. But suffice to say that it is primed to be the edge of the wave that is going to be coming. Once the green light is given for capital to get deployed, it's going to happen very, very quickly. Thankfully, you guys have already done all the hard work. You've set everything up to be successful.
Okay, so a couple things to capture there. Those three individuals are not just people that you find locally here. If you go to any national, international trade show or convention on this subject, everybody there knows these guys' names, okay? And that's what they're saying here is that despite the fact that capital investment has slowed down, the research and development to manufacture all those 700s of new pharma that needs to be made, that is happening in the Bay Area, a lot of it, needs a place to be manufactured now. And so because of our strategy and because all the ecosystem components that have been developed here over the years, we are poised to capture that. And so something that wasn't in there is that the prediction is that you'll start to see the price of money come down, opening up the door for capital investment later this year. And so we already have several projects already lined up. And we've shown this to you before, but just as a reminder, this is just one of the projects that is already ready to go. They are actually courting a variety of different potential tenants at this particular location. And so I expect that you'll see this under construction or begin construction either by the end of this year or certainly the first quarter of next year. But when you look at the overall plan and what it means to the economy here, and it's not just numbers anymore, it's also, this is creating living wage jobs for our children. Okay, so that again, people can stay here, live here, work here, play here. And so it results in a $2.5 billion investment, but there's more. I mentioned to you earlier about the sale of Genentech to Lonza. So we met with them recently. We're very excited about them coming into our community and taking over because they are actually going to use that amazing facility out there that you see up here on the screen to its full capacity and then some. Okay, so they bought the site for $1.2 billion. They've told us their plans to expand and renovate the facility with another $500 million investment in that facility. And so they're adding new jobs, 200 or so new jobs to the numbers that they already kept there from the prior tenant. And there's going to be adding more construction jobs. And when you put that all into those numbers again, you're looking at over almost $500 million in construction spending and $4.5 million in local taxes. So it's coming, okay? We talk about the future, and the reason we shared this with you in the past is for a couple of different reasons. One, because we're running out of land. And I guess that's a good thing if you have more opportunities. But we only have 3 more parcels that total 60 acres for future growth. And as you can see with the examples that I've highlighted for here this morning, good things take time. That's the other reason why we're talking about future growth, okay? Forgive the barbecue reference, but just like a low and slow smoked brisket that takes 14 hours to cook, it's worth the wait, okay? And so this is why we're looking to other areas that we're fortunate to have in our community for future growth. And I will tell you that at the last Bio International conference that we were at, where we had companies and countries coming to our booth to talk to us about, okay, what's next? Where are you going to grow next? This is what we're talking about right here. And so this is the Northeast growth area, but this is just one of the areas that we're actively pursuing. The other area, actually, this is both of them. You can see the Northeast growth area up there in the upper right-hand corner. And then we have our east of Leisureton area that lines on the east side of Leisureton, hence the name. But this is an area that we're actively pursuing right now because we, in addition to job growth and opportunities for non-residential growth, we also need that other stuff for the workforce, the missing middle, all those important things. And we also want well-designed, high-quality master plan communities. And so Council, as part of establishing those growth areas, established my last number, 15 guiding principles for new growth. And it's all about building a high-quality community with high-quality amenities. The mayor mentioned schools, parks, open spaces. That's what we're looking for as part of our new growth. Always looking forward to build something better and raise the bar. And so, but it does take a lot of work. It takes a lot of partnerships. And a lot of you are in the audience today, and I thank you for your participation in this. And, unfortunately, I won't be there to see the end of it, but I know that we have a talented team and great leadership to bring it home and do some great things for our community. And so with that, that completes my last piece. So I'm going to turn it over to the mayor to bring it home.
All right. Yeah. So as you can see by the numbers that we walked through this morning, a lot has been accomplished over the last year, and there's so much that's planned in this next year. And as we forecast, it's more than just a year, but we have to look at it from a budget standpoint. Economically, how do we get to where we're going? There's a lot of exciting things that are in front of us. And I've had the privilege as mayor to sit down with a lot of interested parties and industry leaders that are looking to participate in this wonderful endeavor, whether it's the pharmaceutical side, which is not just human, it's also ag. We are in an ag-centric area. Well, we ask our community also what is important. And so I think it's important to know that even when we look at what our community wants, it's a strong economy. And we want, affordable, attainable housing. All of this word cloud really illustrates what is important and what makes a great community. Many of you have heard me say, Vacaville is more than a place, it's a feeling. People know when they live here, whether it's the events that you come to, the downtown experience like a living room. A strong economy, great parks, everything that goes into it. It's highly complex. And I had the privilege, obviously most of you know this, but working on staff in the past to recognize that it takes a team. And this entire team also, when you consider everyone, this is something that I didn't create, but I appreciate, Aaron and the team highlighting the employees that come to work every day and want to make a difference and to feel that they're part of something. As you all know in your own businesses, if you can expose an employee to what and why it matters, to see the outcome, and that is really the goal within our city staff, is to be difference makers and making a difference, protecting and creating a positive impact on people and serving others and being part of a team is so important. And as a city government, many times we say the speed of government or the speed of business, and we're trying to be more efficient and more effective as your government, so that what we can have is a thriving in a city that isn't just surviving, right? We hear and we feel all this because we look at the numbers, but there's reason to be hopeful and optimistic. And one of the ways to connect your city staff and leaders have been engaging in the community, certainly through the pandemic. There's been no doubt. But beyond that, the COV Connect has spent, in this program, has spent over $200,000 and many hundreds of staff volunteers and countless hours to make a difference in neighborhoods, to look at the impacts of a neighborhood that needs some help, and to help to beautify the place that we all want to call home. And so these Make a Difference events, National Night Out and others, really do connect not only from the council to staff, but to the community, that this is a different place. This is the why Vacaville. I am very privileged and proud to stand before you as mayor, and I know members of the council, so many times we're dealing with policy issues and how to get to an achievable and sustainable community that we all want to live and raise our families. And yet there are times we get together as a council and we have to debate and we have to hear of the challenges that are in front of us. We know what those are. And so part of that is how to strategize to get there. And so we have a few next steps, right? We know that we have just heard the mid-year budget. You just got a piece of it. And so we're making decisions to make sure that we don't go into that deficit spending that is a structural deficit versus a catastrophic cliff. Some of us have lived those in the Great Recession when you didn't have a reserve. You didn't have a safety net. And so we have to be good stewards of the money that comes in because it's not ours, it's the community's. It doesn't matter if it comes from a grant or elsewhere. We are making decisions that are to better our community and beyond. The partnerships we have with economic development, we can't do it alone. We do it in the region. We do it collectively. Our partnership, we hear at our council, we need more schools before you can even think about building. So we work together to figure out how to do it. It didn't pass this time, but I do believe that there is a lot of opportunity with the developments that we're looking at to really look at those big picture ideas and say, we're going to get there, but we're going to do it in partnership with the community. So obviously this is the budget process, and in the future we will end up with a new strategic plan, but it will incorporate the fact that sometimes it looks doom and gloom as if nothing happens. But what you can see this morning, there's so many things that are about to happen. When Lonza says they want to double capacity, they're hiring. I like that. I think I immediately said, I know people who want to work there. There's an excitement. We don't have to be in a sense of, and we're not in a sense of desperation. The truth is, as a city, the state of the city really is stable. It is very optimistic. There's reason to be cautious, like we all would be, to make sure that what we can do is just know that we're going to be in that successful place in the future. And with that, I just want to say that there is always an opportunity for questions, but I want to also throw out a few things that probably are important. We don't have the time to go into it, but I need you to know that this city and your council are focusing on things like water. We all are hearing these things that could cause fear. We're leaning in. Whether it's the fact that the state's mandating response to chromium-6, so we have to respond to these things that could cost millions of dollars. And we can be frustrated as why, but we as the city and your representatives have to make sure that there is compliance at the same time. When there's reason to push back on things, we will, like the thought of taking away our water. That's not going to happen, but it's only because we're leaning into these things. We need to make sure that if we're going to be sustainable for business, is that we have the opportunities, both in water and wastewater. But even more importantly sometimes is what's the next one? I can tell you one right now, and that is energy. How are we going to be energy resilient? And so we are working with PG&E to make sure that we're not just waiting for whether or not they're going to be able to maintain the capacity of energy that we're going to need. And when we don't feel that there is that response, we're also working with our state and federal elected partners. And so some of those meetings, sometimes they'll come to our council meetings and they'll say, are you talking to, Assembly member this person or Senator that person? And the answer is yes. We set up those meetings, and they know that that's what we're doing, is leaning in, and how can we talk about these concerning bills that are in front of the city. So your city I just want you to know, I feel confident that we have a strong team and that we're in a very good place. And it's okay to be tightening the belt, at the same time being optimistic. And that is really where the state of the city is we're both cautious, yet we're stable, and we're in a great opportunity. But we're also strategic, and that is really where the City of Vacaville is going into 2025. And I just want to say thank you, and I know we're over time, but if there is a need, and I'm going to direct that to you because I'm used to being cut off if we're over, but I do know that I want to respect people's ability to get back to their day. But if there were a question or two, or I'll turn it back over to you. So I'll take a question or two if we want. Yes.
Just a question. So property taxes are such a large number of revenue that comes in for the city. Oh, sorry. Hi, thank you. Are residential property taxes on the books in the foreseeable future for an increase?
So you may be able to answer that, but I will tell you part of what does change on property taxes is that when properties turn over, right? Money as it stands right now, people are sitting because of their low interest rates that they may have. And so at some point when that begins to change, maybe it starts with new homes. And then at some point when it does dip into that affordability or the need for people to move, it does change the tax roll.
So I couldn't hear the question all the way over there.
Oh, I was asking if residential property taxes are on the books for the foreseeable future for an increase, especially resale properties, because new builds, depending on where you're at, have Melrose, you're looking at a higher 1.8% tax bracket versus 1.25, which is typically resale properties.
I don't see it changing, quite honestly, at least not from our perspective. And so that's not something that we're looking at to explore playing with. There's other things that need to go into that number for the tax rate as well that go into building a community, such as the CFDs and infrastructure CFDs and those kinds of things. So I don't think that we'll see changes in that regard.
And we are looking at what those costs are, because at some point affordability comes into question as we're looking at, how do we create the housing stock that allows for the ability to afford. And we know that that's an ongoing issue, and these issues are being brought before the council this year, especially as we're looking at east of Leisure Town and some of the other developments. Because part of it is if they're not built, then we don't have the housing, and that housing will drive up the prices as well. So there's a lot of complex issues, but our council has been asking staff to come back and give us some better informed understanding. This just goes to the being data driven, so that we can make sure that what we're providing is a viable, sustainable opportunity for those who want to live here. And it will all play into this, but CFDs do play a part of it. And what is the total tax burden that individuals or families are able to sustain? And at what point do developers pencil a project or not? And that is something that we have to pay attention to very closely. Another question. And if you have to leave, I encourage you to go ahead and step and go. You're not insulting us, but it's always good for one more question. Question? Yes, sorry, I was looking over to the top of you.
Oh, sorry.
Right here? I'll come to you and then, yeah. And then you'll be the last question.
Hi,
and we'll
thank
stick
you.
around for a while too.
Thank you guys so much. This has been so informative. Thank you. I'm with Kaiser Permanente, and my question is around workforce. Ideally, how wonderful would it be that they hire the people that already live here, that were educated here? How are we partnering with the high schools to prepare the students? I know that Solano County Community College has a biomanufacturing pathway. Is there more?
Well, it is a good question. The person who probably has the best and most information on that is Mr. Santapadre, and I'm going to just let him answer that question.
Good morning. We're working with the city, we're working with the economic development group to make sure that what we're training our students to do is what our community needs. So Solano College has brought the biotech program to both of our comprehensive high schools. We also have other career technical pathways, medical science, different ones like that are also related. And really the next one we're looking at, and we've been talking about it here, is advanced manufacturing. How can we support that in this community? So we're working with the city. We love the partnership, and we're going to continue to do that.
All right. One last question, and then we'll break.
Thank you. First off, excellent job. Thank you. Glad and proud to be a Vacavillian, this private community. As you can see here on the flyer, from 1960 to 225, you can see the difference, and you mentioned and highlighted the land and the resources. We're running out, right? We cannot create more land. So with that, money, construction, jobs are coming. Things are going to change in the future as we have our resources on that area. The question is, with the budget being as red in a deficit, which we're not the only one, but we have to concentrate in our house, then I want to emphasize and ask also, what are we doing for the seniors? You already know that. I asked that question before. 3 years ago, I asked, what programs are we doing for the seniors? And also, when you go through the budget and the expenses, I want you to ask you kindly to think about them, because they're oftentimes forgotten. And they need you as well. I'm also becoming a senior, so I want to see, you want to keep us here, we're going to keep us healthy, we're going to keep us engaged. And what programs have you developed since you're beginning to now to help the seniors? Thank you.
No, thank you. I think it is important, and while I really rely on this in our city staff, is there are so many people who are truly at that risk level because of a fixed income. And so whether it's housing developments or projects that actually can deed restrict, so that there are those who can't afford those increases. There's rate increases all the time, power increases, but the goal for our staff is to always consider that lens. How do we make sure that occurs? We do know that the plan for east of Leisure Town is to, from a multi-purpose and a multi-lens look, is to look at entry-level housing, workforce housing, and even whether it's apartments or it's condos or even some of the projects, to make sure that we're hitting them all. We're not just looking at affordability, but types of housing that would be suitable for everyone. And I've lived this even in my own life with my own parents living here in Vacaville. And so that lens helps me, and I know it helps our staff, look at how can we ensure that we don't lose people. And it comes from the entry-level person coming into the workforce to those who have served our community and our armed forces and are looking to just live their life comfortably in Vacaville and not be pushed out. And so that is the commitment, that's the lens that we're looking through from a budget perspective, a planning perspective, and we are in the planning stages right now as we're looking at these two growth areas. So thank you. I want to thank you for this. It's been a privilege and a pleasure for the City of Vacaville and myself as well to be able to give the state of the city. And with that, Debbie, thank you for all your service as well, because I know this will be your last one. So thank you for your service as well.
Welcome. Thank you.